All right, English 111 students, this is Dr. Mark Tinsley, and you're joining me, can you believe it? Week 10 of our course, October 26th through November 1st. That's this week. We are getting along in this course. We are past the halfway, I'll get it in a minute. We are past the halfway point, and we are on the downhill side. Now, the downhill side can be dangerous because we can start to let our guard down. So what I always tell students at this point in the semester is don't let your guard down. It's the second half that can kill us in terms of work, isn't it? Because it's in the second half in some of your classes that big papers come due, projects come due, final exams come due. Things get busy in the second half. Sometimes the first half of a semester can kind of lull us into complacency. Second half can shock us and destroy us if we're not careful. So don't let that happen to you. Keep your guard up. Do the work that you need to do. Stay strong, stay resilient, stay focused, and you will be fine. Okay. So, by the time you listen to this lecture, hopefully you've turned in essay number 2, which was a rewrite, a revision, an improvement on essay number 1. I will get those graded this week. You need to give me the week to do it, though. Don't expect me to jump on it in the first 2 or 3 days and get it done. Give me the 7 days, or maybe 8 days, depending on how my week goes. But I will get those graded, and I will give you feedback, and we will move on. Okay? This week we are going to be looking at our essay topic selection for essay number 3, but we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Right now, I just want you to know that I'm here for you. I want you to succeed. We're 2 papers down now. We only have 2 more to go, a few more quizzes to go. I mean, we're really drawing to a close in this class. This week we will be doing quiz number 5. And again, choosing our topic for essay number 3, but I will get to that in a few minutes. Okay, so what are we talking about this week? We are talking this week about, we're continuing our discussion on the types of arguments, and we're in chapter 10. Remember, last week we talked about arguments of fact and arguments of definition. Those were chapters 8 and 9. This week, we're in Arguments of Evaluation, Chapter 10. So read Chapter 10 of your textbook. If you haven't done that yet, stop, pause this recording, go read Chapter 10, and then come back and hit play again. All right? Chapter 10, Arguments of Evaluation. Let's jump right in. All right? Let me get us to the next slide here. Arguments of Evaluation. What I want you to do is an exercise. And again, this is on your honor. Some people will do this. I know some people won't, but if you can do this, do it. It will improve your learning in this class. But what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, what is your favorite movie? We can all do this, right? What's our favorite movie? And I want you to give the name of the movie and 3 reasons why it's your favorite movie. Go ahead and do that. Pause this recording, do that, and then come back in a minute. Okay, what'd you think? What's your favorite movie? Now, I'm not going to try to guess what anybody's favorite movie is, but I'll tell you what mine is. Now, I'm going to show my age a little bit here, but my favorite movie of all time is probably the movie Top Gun. Okay, I think it was 1986 that it was released, and I was a boy in 1986, and I just loved this movie. And I asked myself, well, what are the 3 reasons that I like this movie? Well, it was, number 1, it was action-packed. It had a lot of action in it. So that was number 1. Number 2, it's a lot of great music, a lot of 80s hits, rock and roll, classic rock hits. It wasn't classic rock then, but it was rock and roll at the time. Wonderful music. So you got lots of action, lots of great music, and I wanted to be a fighter pilot anyway. I wanted to go in the Air Force. I know Top Gun's about the Navy, but I wanted to go in the Air Force, and I wanted to fly F-16 fighters. So here's this movie about these fighter pilots, and they're going to this special school, and it's great rock and roll music, lots of action, a couple of combat scenes in the movie, great cinematography. I love this movie, okay? And I must have watched it 100 times. I'm probably actually not exaggerating. I bet I have watched Top Gun nearly 100 times. Now, do you see what I just did? I made an assertion of what my favorite movie is, and I gave you reasons why I like that movie. In other words, I evaluated the movie, and we're going to talk about this in a lot more depth, but notice how I evaluated the movie and came up with the things that make it a good movie in my mind. I evaluated its quality, and I gave you some of those positive quality points and elements that make it a great movie in my mind. I just made an argument of evaluation. Now, it's a very rudimentary argument, but nonetheless, an argument of evaluation. Okay, let's do another one. Again, do this after I read this question and explain it to you. Pause the recording, do this, and then come back. All right, so of the following foods, which is your favorite? State the food and give reasons why it is better than the other foods. All right, go ahead and pause, do this, and come back. Okay, what do you think? What's your favorite food? Now, again, everybody's different, but I'm going to tell you what mine is. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why it's my favorite food, and it's chicken. All right, here it is. Of the 4 listed here, it's chicken. Now, why chicken? Well, first of all, okay, a lot of steak people here are going to kill me, all right? I understand that. But steak can be tough, all right? Chicken meat can be tough too, but if it's cooked right, and I don't think it's all that difficult to cook chicken right. Chicken is tender typically, right? But steak, you've got to be almost, you've got to be a chef. You've got to almost be school trained to do a steak the proper way. Otherwise, it's going to be tough. And it's going to be bland. Pork, kind of the same way. Plus, pork's a little tough anyway, no matter how you cook it. And vegetables, I mean, come on, need I say more? So chicken, in my mind, for that, compared to the other 3, is good. Chicken's also good because, it's a little bit lower calorie, lower fat, a little healthier for you than maybe pork and steak. And chicken, as far as vegetables go, it just has a better taste. You can, in my mind, you can do more with it than you can with vegetables. Now, the vegetarians wouldn't agree with me on that, but. And I could keep going, right? I said maybe I was going to give you 3 reasons. I don't know how many reasons I just gave you, but you get the idea. What am I doing? I'm evaluating chicken, and I'm comparing it to some other foods. I can compare it to fish. I can compare it to a million other things, but I'm going to compare it. I've compared it to steak, pork, and vegetables. But do you see what I'm doing? I'm evaluating the quality of chicken based on some criteria, and my criteria are other forms of food. Now, we'll get to that in just a minute. All right, you see what I'm doing? But basically, all I want you to see, and all I want you to have practiced in the last few minutes, is some basic, very, very easy, basic forms of arguments of evaluation. Okay? All right, I hope you see that. Let's move on. I hope you did that. If you didn't do it, go back and do it. It'll help you out. So what are arguments of evaluation? Now, this is key. I mentioned it a minute ago, but I want to hone in on it now. Arguments of evaluation evaluate things based on a set of standards. If I'm going to evaluate something, I have to know what I'm evaluating it on. What are the standards that I'm going to use in my evaluation? All right? For example, and we'll get to this in a minute, but when I said favorite movie, what was your favorite movie? Well, there are standards that you look for in movies. For me, when I was a boy in the 1980s, a standard for me was I wanted action. I needed action. That movie needed to be moving. Now, I wouldn't have said that back. I don't know that I would have said that back then. If you said, what's your standard of evaluation for a movie? I would have said, what are you talking about? But today I know what it was. It was action. I wanted action. If a movie had a lot of action, it was going to tend towards being a good movie in my mind. If a movie was kind of slow and, a long drawn out storyline and tons of character development, I might tend towards I wasn't going to be too interested in its end of the spectrum. All right, so action was a standard of evaluation for me. Military movies, again, when I was a boy, I liked military police dramas and those types of things, right? And so that would have been a standard. Did it have military and planes and tanks and police officers and, high-speed car chases and stuff like that in it? Because if it did, that was probably going to be a movie that I would tend to like. And if it didn't, maybe or maybe not. I wasn't big into sports films. So a movie with a lot of sports scenes in it, or a sports drama, probably wasn't going to be very attractive to me. But maybe one that, again, had a lot more military, police, fire, rescue type of stuff in it, and maybe that was going to be more my style. But if we're going to do an evaluation, we've got to know what our standards are. What are the things that we're looking at to evaluate things by? All right, we've got to know our standards, and we're going to talk a lot more about that in just a minute. There are types of arguments of evaluation, two basic types. One's an informal. These are the evaluations that we do every day based on implied, subjective, and or generally accepted standards. For example, favorite soda, walking the dog in the rain, whether or not you like to walk the dog in the rain, where are you going to eat lunch. I know these are kind of silly examples, but these are, we evaluate these. For example, when I go to choose a soda, I'm using informal evaluation. I'm making an informal internal argument of evaluation when I decide, do I want the Coca-Cola or the Pepsi? Do I want the Pepsi or the Dr. Pepper? Do I want the Dr. Pepper or the Mountain Dew? I'm going through a very quick but informal evaluation process, right? I look outside and it's raining outside. Do I walk the dog now or do I wait until later? Again, I evaluate things. What are the pros? What are the cons? What are the good things that could happen if I walk the dog in the rain? What are the bad things that could happen if I walk the dog in the rain? What are the positive outcomes? What are the negative outcomes? Deciding where I'm going to eat lunch, same thing. Where's the best place? What are some of the standards I might use in an informal evaluation like that? Well, what kind of food do I want? Where's the best food served? What restaurant is the most timely in getting your food out quickly, because maybe I don't have a long time for lunch. In other words, I run through a quick, deliberate, and informal evaluation process whenever I make a decision. And I make these kind of decisions every day, these informal arguments of evaluation internally, sometimes externally, but I make them every day. What we're talking about in this class, when we talk about argument evaluation, is more of the formal argument evaluation. Evaluation is based on systematic standards set forth as part, here it is, as part of an argument or case. For example, purchasing a car. We make a formal argument of evaluation when we purchase our car based on a comparison of features and prices. For example, if I'm going to go out and buy a car and I decide, okay, to buy this car, I'm going to do this formally. I'm going to do an evaluation process here. I'm going to make an internal argument evaluation in choosing my car. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to base it on features that I'm looking for, features that are important to me, and price issues that are important, price matters that are important to me. And I make a list of these standards. What are the things I'm looking for? Maybe I want 4 doors, so that's one of my standards. I need, if the car I purchase is going to have 4 doors. The car I purchase is going to have 6 cylinders. It's going to have at least a 6-cylinder engine. The car I purchase is going to it's going to have a body color that doesn't appear to be dirty all the time. Like I wouldn't want a white car, or maybe I don't want a black car, but maybe red or green or something like that. So that's going to be one of my standards of evaluation. And I just keep listing these things out. Maybe I want a reverse camera, so I want a reverse camera on it, and I want signal lights on the mirror, on the side mirrors, and I want temperature display in the rear view mirror. I mean, whatever it is, you set forth the things that you want. Okay, you see that? And then I say, well, I want a price range. I want the price to be somewhere between $25,000 and $35,000. And there you go. You just set forth your criteria. Now, when you go out and you look at a car, here's how the evaluation process works. Now I go out and I go to the Toyota dealership, for example, and I see the Toyota. I don't even know what Toyota. What do they make? Whatever cars they make. I don't even know what they make. I don't know the Toyota cars, so I don't even know what the type cars they make. But you go to the dealership and you look at the Toyota Corolla. I think that's one of them. So Toyota Corolla, and you look at it. Okay, wait, does it have 4 doors? Yes, it has 4 doors. Okay, it meets that criteria. Does it have a rear-facing camera? Yes, it does. So it meets that criteria. The one I'm looking at, it's got a blue body color. Okay, that's acceptable. I'll check that off. He meets that. And you go down your list, and then you get to the price, and you go, okay, what's the price of this car? Oh, well, the car's $38,000. Wait a minute, my range was 25 to 35, so that doesn't meet that criteria. So you have that list. Okay, the Toyota Corolla meets these criteria, it doesn't meet these criteria. Now you go to the dealership down the road, you go up to the Nissan. So you get a Nissan Sentra or Altima. I do own a Nissan, so I know some of those car types. So you go to the Altima and you start going down the list. The Altima, yeah, it meets this one, it meets this one, it meets this one, it meets this one. And they're going to start it at $32,000, so it meets that. It's in my price range. And then you go to the Mercedes dealership, and you do the same thing with one of their cars. And you go to the BMW dealership, and you do the same thing with one of their cars. You go to the Ford dealership, you do the same thing with one of those cars, and so on and so forth. And then when you get done, you look at your list, and whatever car meets the most criteria that you set out, that's probably, or logically, the car you choose. And do you see how you made it? You went through an evaluation process based on a set of standards. Okay? You'll see in a minute as we go on through this lecture, but that's how we make a good argument of evaluation. We set our standards out, and then we evaluate whatever it is we're looking at based on those standards. Let me give you another example. Electing a politician based on his or her stance on issues. Now, we're getting ready to go into election, right? I mean, within days of this lecture, we're going to be, maybe you've already done it, maybe you've already gone to the polls. But we're going to be electing a new president and some congressmen, senators, that type of thing. But same thing. You list out your issues. These are the issues that are important to me. These are the things, your list of standards, right? So I want a politician who's pro-life or pro-choice. I want a politician who's, cares about the economy. I want a politician who's going to uphold Obamacare. Or I want a politician who's going to strike down Obamacare. And just like the car, you make your list of things that are important to you. And then you look at your candidate and you say, which candidate meets these criteria? Which candidate is pro-life or pro-choice? Which candidate is pro-Obamacare or anti-Obamacare? Which candidate is going to is the most fiscally responsible? Which candidate is going to uphold pre-existing conditions? And you just go down your list. And then when you get done, ideally and logically, you choose the candidate that meets your maximum number of your criteria. You've just gone through an evaluation process. You could do that with anything, quality of certain positions on global warming, global climate change, etc., etc., etc. But the first thing you have to do in an argument evaluation is you have to set your standards. What are my standards? And then you go out, after you've set the standards, what you're going to be evaluating on, then you go out and you do the evaluation of the thing, the person, the situation, whatever it is that you're looking at. Okay? So, when making an argument of evaluation, you must establish your criteria of evaluation. And again, those criteria are just simply your standards of evaluation. For example, let's look at this. If I want to argue the best movie for 2018, maybe that's the argument I want to make. I'm going to write a paper and I'm going to argue what the best movie was for 2018. Then I might want to look at the following standards. If this doesn't make sense, please email me, but I hope it does. So I decide that the standards, the things that I'm going to evaluate the movies on, are going to be length of movie, name recognition and awards of the leading actors, subject matter and its relevance to contemporary America, character development, intrigue and suspense, and plot development. So, for example, length of movie. Maybe I say that I want movies that are under 2 hours long. If a movie goes more than 2 hours, it's going to bore me. It's going to bore the audience. So my criteria is length of movie needs to be less than 2 hours. All right, so maybe that's my first criteria, my first standard. Second one, name recognition and awards of leading actors. Maybe it's like, you know what, the more recognizable actors who have awards in your movie, the better it's going to score on my scale. So if you've got 2 Academy Award winning actors, wow, you're going to score high. If you have no Academy Award winning actors, you're going to score lower. Maybe you have a movie, you got 3 or 4 actors that have huge name recognition. Maybe they haven't won a bunch of Academy Awards, but maybe they have great name recognition, as opposed to another movie where we don't know anybody's name. They're all B actors. Those movies are going to score lower than the ones with recognizable names. Okay. Third criteria, subject matter and its relevance to contemporary America. I'm going to say, you know what? I want whatever movie is going to be the greatest movie of 2018. It should speak to the cultural and social issues facing America today. If a movie does that, I'm going to score it high. If it doesn't, I'm going to score it kind of low. Fourth, character development. Hey, if you develop your characters well, and I get to know and feel like those people in the movie are people I know because you've developed those characters so well, then that scores high. If the character development's weak, it scores low. Intrigue and suspense. I want intrigue. I want suspense. I want to feel like I'm on the edge of my seat for the entire movie. If it does that, if your movie does that, you're going to score high. If it's boring, it's going to score low. And then plot development. If you tell me a good story, you develop the plot, I follow you along the way, so you're going to score high. I get lost in your movie, you don't develop the plot, it's confusing, you're going to score low. So I've set forth my 6 criteria. Do you see that? This is what I'm going to evaluate every movie on. So when I pick movie number A, and it's a long 2-hour movie, I don't know anybody's name in the movie, doesn't have anything to do with contemporary cultural issues in America, the character development, plot development are weak, and it's a boring movie, then guess what? That ain't going to be the number 1 movie for 2018. However, if the movie's like an hour and a half long, and it's got 2 Academy Award winners in it, and it's about American cultural issues today, and I get to know the characters, and I'm on the edge of my seat, and the story is told well, then guess what? Maybe that's a contender for best movie for 2018. But it's based on those criteria. Now, I didn't evaluate these movies on everything. I didn't evaluate them on cinematography. I could have, but notice that's not in there. So I'm not looking at how well is the movie portrayed visually. No. That's not one of my criteria. Maybe I could be concerned about audio, but that's not one of my criteria. I could be concerned about sets. Are the sets good? Are the locations where the filming was done? That's not one of my criteria. Could be, but I didn't set forth that as one of my criteria in the beginning. Therefore, I don't evaluate based on that. Arguments of evaluation must start with the establishment of your criteria of evaluation. What are you going to evaluate on? So, you don't have to get in groups of 3, but I want you to do this. Again, we're going to pause. You're asked by your boss to set up an evaluation system for employee performance. What are your criteria of evaluation? What would your criteria of evaluation be? So I want you to pause this recording. I want you to write down 3 or 4 criteria and then hit play again and we'll talk about it. Okay, go ahead and do that. Okay, what did you see? What did you say, rather? Right? Could have said a lot of things. But I'll tell you what I would have said, and what I've heard students say in the past when I've done this lecture, and we've talked about this practical exercise, is people say, well, what about timeliness, right? So if I'm a boss, I got to set up performance of evaluation system, then one of the things is going to be timeliness. Do you show up on time? Do you do things on time? Can I rely on you? So that's one. Maybe another is your work ethic. Do you come to work and work an honest 8 hours, or are you always looking for a way to slack off? So that's another. Maybe dress. How an employee dresses. Do you come to looking professional and ready to work, or you come like you just walked out of bed, right? Maybe respect for authority. So, do you respect your bosses and you're obedient to them in the sense of doing what they ask you to do and being a team player, or are you kind of off on your own, snarky, rude, and disrespectful? And we could keep going, right? But these are the kinds of things that you would evaluate. So then when you got your list of criteria, the things that you're looking at, now when you go to evaluate your employees, you evaluate every employee based on that set of criteria. All right? Get the picture? Arguments of evaluation start with developing your set of standards or your criteria of evaluation. Scenario 2, you're going to purchase a new home. What are the criteria for your evaluation? Now go ahead and pause again. Hit play once you've come up with 3 or 4 things. Okay, so you're going to purchase a new home. What are you going to do? Well, again, based on my experience in class, this is what students usually say. Going to look at the price of the home, right? Okay. I'm looking for a certain range of prices. Going to look at the number of bathrooms in the home. Maybe you're looking for a 3-bathroom house. Going to look at number of stories in the house. Is it 2-story, 3-story, 1-story? What are you looking for? Got to develop that criteria. Maybe you're looking for 2-story homes. So that's what you're going to look for. School district. Is it a good school district, a bad school district? Tax areas, where your house is located and what the taxes are. Crime in the area. Is the crime high or low? Most people would want a lower crime area for their home. So you get what I'm saying. You develop that criteria ahead of time. Then when you go looking for homes, you've got your list of criteria and you go down your list noting for each home that you do, noting each of the criteria and how that home meets the criteria. Low crime area, high tax area, low tax area. 2-story house, 1-story house, 3-story house, and then you can evaluate objectively based on that. Okay? Let's try one more. And this one's from a little bit different perspective. Now, notice that before, in the other 2, I asked you to develop the criteria. Now, I'm going to give you the criteria, and you have to evaluate. So we're kind of taking the next step here based on the criteria. So, given the following criteria of evaluation, so I'm giving it to you now, how would you rate President Donald Trump's performance as president thus far? This is an apropos question for an election year. So how would you do it? So based on his presidential charisma and persona, how he presents himself, how would you rate him? His ability to get legislation passed, how would you rate that? His willingness to work with both parties, how would you rate that? His willingness to live by convictions, how would you rate that? His sacrificial service for the nation, how would you rate that? And his popular opinion, what people think of him, how would you rate that? So I think 6 criteria there. Based on that, how would you? Now, I'm not asking you. You can't, don't evaluate on anything else, but just on those 6 things. How is Donald Trump doing as president right now? Now, to avoid any political consternation, I'm not going to go through this exercise, but you can see what I'm getting you to do. I'm getting you to say, well, how does he do as a person? His persona and his charisma. Is he charismatic? Is he convincing? And you answer that honestly, right? And how much legislation has he gotten passed? You answer that honestly. His willingness, how does he work with both parties? Or is he willing to work with both parties? Answer that question honestly. And you go down that list. And then once you get your honest answers for each one of those 6 criteria, you go back and review them, and then you answer the question, okay, based on these, how is he doing as president here in 2016 to 2020? Okay? You see that? I'm making my evaluation based on a set of preconceived, predetermined criteria. So how do we make an argument of evaluation? I've implied all of this so far, but let me put some meat on the bones. First, you formulate your criteria. No matter what kind of argument you're making, you formulate those criteria. And then you develop your thesis statement. And your thesis statement, you make your claim, right? So you state, so you've done you make your hypothesis, right, of what you think what your assertion is. So, for example, let's take the Donald Trump. You might say Donald Trump has not performed well as the president of the United States because, and then your because statements become your main points based on your criteria. So, for example, going back, let me see if I can get back. Yeah, there we go. Going back to this. So maybe you say he's not been a good president because you say he hasn't gotten a lot of legislation passed, he doesn't work well with both parties, and his popular opinion's low. Maybe those are the three things that you really keyed in on that he hasn't done well on. And by the way, I'm not making a judgment on our president one way or the other. This is a hypothetical scenario I'm putting before you right now. So don't judge my politics or judge me based on anything I say regarding politics. But in an election year, it's cool to kind of talk through some of these things and think through them, because these are some of the arguments and things that you can use to make your decision for who you want as your next president. But anyway, I'm apolitical in this class, so I'm not going to try to push any view on anyone. But let's say you say he doesn't get a lot of legislation passed, he's not willing to work with both parties, and his popular opinion is low. And so you come back here and you develop your thesis and you say Donald Trump has not performed well as a president because his popular opinion is low, he has not gotten a lot of legislation passed, and he doesn't work well with people of the opposing party. Okay, do you see that? Do you see how I used this criteria ahead of time, these 6 criteria, to help me make a decision on whether President Trump is a good president or not? And when I decided that he wasn't, then the reasons why he's not, based on my criteria, became my main points for my essay. Now, just so I can be fair to everyone of all political viewpoints or opposing political viewpoints, I'd say, well, let's say you do your evaluation. You say President Trump is doing a great job as president because he has great personal charisma. He's willing to live by his convictions, and he's sacrificed so much for his nation, right? So then you would say in your thesis, President Trump has done a wonderful job as president because he has great personal charisma, he lives by his convictions, and he's sacrificed so much for his nation. Okay? It's clear as mud. So you make your thesis statement with your main points included, and you do your research. Then, like we've said in the other types of arguments, we modify our thesis. Say maybe after you do your research a little bit more, you find out maybe Trump wasn't as great a president as you thought he was, or he was better than you thought he was, and you might want to alter your thesis statement or your main points, right? So always after you do more research, modify your thesis statement, and then of course present your evidence by making your argument. Okay? So that's an argument of evaluation. Again, starts with formulating your criteria and then analyzing your topic. Well, forming your thesis statement first, which is your hypothesis, doing your research or doing more research, and then modifying that thesis statement. Making sure your main points are the main points you want to make, making sure that your assertion is the assertion that you want, and then you go ahead and write your paper. Your thesis statement, as I said before, is your backbone. It's the backbone of your paper. If it's not right, your paper will fail. So you've got to get it right. That's why we spend so much time in thesis development. We do our criteria, we develop our thesis, we do our research, we modify our thesis. We stay on this. We're not even writing the paper yet. First 4 steps of those 5 I have listed there are all about getting your research and your thesis statement right. The 5th step is just simply writing the paper. Folks, I know this might sound weird, and most people don't believe me, but when you become a seasoned writer, and I would say I'm a pretty seasoned writer, I write professionally, have written some books and articles and all those kinds of things, and I will tell you that the actual writing the paper is the easy part. The hard part is getting your thesis right, getting your main points right, getting your outline right, getting all that pre-writing stuff correct, research, doing good research. Once you've done good research, you've got a great outline, you know your main points, you know your thesis, everything else falls into place, all right? It does. It really does. I know it sounds crazy and some people don't believe me, but it truly does, all right? All right, so what do? We're going to do essay number 3. We're going to start the process for essay number 3. And in this week, that process starts with choosing your topic for essay number 3. Now, don't worry about what the syllabus says about essay number 3. Just follow what I'm saying here. You need to choose a topic for your next essay, essay number 3. And in this essay, you're going to make an argument of fact, an argument of definition, or an argument of evaluation. So you can choose one of those 3 arguments, but you're going to make one of those. Argument of fact, argument of definition, or an argument of evaluation. Here's some ideas, and here's how they differ. For example, let's talk about the presidency of Donald Trump since we're on it. If I were going to make an argument of fact based on the presidency of Donald Trump, I might do something like Donald Trump's cabinet structure and leadership philosophy. So I'm just going to study how he structured his cabinet, what his philosophy of leadership is, and I'm going to write a paper just telling you, informing you what Donald Trump's cabinet looks like and what his leadership philosophy is. Now that's an argument of fact. I can go out and I can interview Donald Trump, I can interview staffers of his, I can read his books, I can read his go listen to YouTube videos, whatever, but I could probably figure out what these things are. And those are fact, right? His cabinet structure is what it is. His leadership philosophy is what it is. And I could write a paper like that. But maybe I want to write on the presidency of Donald Trump, and I want to write an argument of definition. So in this one, I say, what is Donald Trump's definition of human life? Now, I am going to write a paper that articulates Donald Trump's definition of human life. That's an argument of definition. And then an example of an argument evaluation from the presidency of Donald Trump would be Donald Trump's effectiveness as president, which is kind of what we've been talking about, right, in this last couple examples. So I want to argue, has he been a good president or has he not been a good president? Well, that's an argument of evaluation. So you could do something like that. You could do a paper on American relations with North Korea. You could do a paper on the state of education in America, natural disaster response in America. You could do a paper on global climate change. You could do a paper on gay rights in America. You could do a paper on honoring Confederate soldiers in America, pro or con there, right? You could do, race relations in America. You could do anything you want. Essay number 3 can be anything you want, as long as it is an argument of fact, an argument of definition, or an argument of evaluation. Now you're thinking, how am I going to figure out what I want to do? How am I going to figure out what I want to write about? And I'm just going to go over this really, really quick. If I had it on the board, it might be a little easier, but I'll just go through these real quick. Try some brainstorming techniques. If you want to read up on some of these, or you can just Google these on Google or any other browser search engine, and you can learn more about them. But developing essays, ideas for your essay can come in many different forms. 4 ways of brainstorming that have worked for me and others in the past. One is called cubing, the other is called listing, the third is called mapping or webbing, and the fourth is called free writing. In cubing, you just basically ask yourself 6 questions. A cube has 6 sides, right? So you're going to ask yourself 6 questions about your topic. Say you're going to do a topic on abortion. Well, you would say, okay, let me describe abortion. Then let me compare abortion to whatever else. And this is brainstorming. So you're not necessarily being extremely articulate here when you're taking these notes and doing brainstorming, or trying to be thorough in any way. You're just writing down ideas to try to spawn your creative thought process. So cubing, you would just describe abortion. Maybe you would compare abortion to whatever. You can compare abortion to a hat. I mean, it doesn't matter. You compare it to whatever. You associate abortion. When you think about the word abortion, what other things do you think about? You could analyze abortion, just your thoughts about abortion and what it is. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it does it work? Is it effective in controlling, giving women choice, and whatever? Just analyze it. Then apply it. How would abortion apply? How does abortion apply in the lives of women in America? How does abortion apply in politics? And then you could argue for and against it. So make your arguments for it, make your arguments against it. And in doing that brainstorming, again, it's just a free flow of thought. Just writing down everything that comes to your mind. That's the key of brainstorming. Just writing everything that comes down to your mind as you answer these 6 questions of describe it, compare it, associate it, analyze it, apply it, argue for and against it. You might come up with a specific topic or assertion, rather, for your paper. Listing is just another type of brainstorming where you just list ideas. Anything that comes to your mind while you're thinking about abortion or whatever your topic is that you want to write on, you just write everything down. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. It might sound like the stupidest thing in abortion, and you see, one of Stephen King's books titles comes into your head. The Village. You think, no, that's M. Night Shyamalan, isn't it? Anyway, I'm not a big Stephen King fan, so I can't even think of a Stephen King. The Shining. I think that was Stephen King, wasn't it? Anyway, so the title of the book, The Shining, comes to your mind. You write it down, right? Doesn't matter. You just write down everything that comes to your mind while you're thinking about your topic. That can help you spawn ideas. Mapping and webbing, I can't draw it out on for you here right now because I don't have that technological capability, but if you've ever seen the bubble charts, right, where you put a bubble and then you put little spokes off that bubble and you put other little bubbles at the end of those spokes and you write down words that associate with the word in the original bubble, right? So if I had abortion in the original bubble and I had spokes coming off of that, and then I'd have other little bubbles attached to those spokes, and any word that I thought of or phrase that I thought of that associated with abortion, I would write in those bubbles. And then I could take one of those bubbles and associate other words with those bubbles and create this web of bubbles. Sometimes that helps people generate ideas for an essay. Or free writing. Some people just like to journal or just write. Just start writing. Stream of consciousness writing. We just write. And as we write, our thoughts kind of develop. This one's actually very good for me. I free write a lot. And free writing really helps me organize my thoughts and get things on paper and get ideas out of my head, even subconscious ideas that I wasn't thinking of. Anyway, any of these brainstorming techniques can help you generate ideas for your topic that might become assertions and or main points for your paper. Again, do you have to use brainstorming? I'm not telling you have to do it. You don't have to turn this in or anything like that. I'm just saying, if you're having trouble doing, let me go back, this step of selecting a topic that you want to talk about in your paper, maybe brainstorming will help you. Okay. All right. But at the end of the day, Essay 3 is going to look like Essay 2 and Essay 1 in the sense that it's going to have an introduction with a draw, background, and thesis statement. It's going to have 3 main body paragraphs, each main body paragraph having a topic sentence supporting evidence and any rebuttals. And then you're going to have a concluding paragraph that restates your thesis and your main points and gives your readers some next steps. All right? So, on that note, what do we do this week? Well, we've talked about arguments of fact, definition, and evaluation over the past 2 weeks. This week, you need to, again, select your topic, any topic you want, as long as it's an argument of fact, definition, or evaluation. And you need to select and you need to write your thesis statement this week. And once you have your thesis statement, which includes your topic, your assertion, and your 3 main points. Remember, your thesis statement should have your 3 main points in it. I'm adding that. We didn't make you do that on Essay 1, but I'm encouraging you to do it now. So you got your topic, your assertion, and your 3 main points in your thesis statement. Once you have that, you need to go in this week, by the end of the week, by Sunday. You need to go in, and there's a little quiz in the Week 10 folder for essay number 3 topic selection. Go in there and answer that question, all right? So that I can see what you're going to do and I can give you some feedback on that. The other thing you need to do this week is quiz number 5. And it, again, is in the Week 10 folder. So make sure you do quiz number 5. And quiz number 5 should be based on chapters 8, 9, and 10 in your textbook. Okay? Again, open book, open notes, all that stuff. Just not open friend. You can't ask anybody else for help. Okay? All right. My mouth is dry. I'm tired. You're tired. It's been 43 or 44 minutes of us being together, and I've enjoyed it. I love lectures. I wish we could be face-to-face, but that's just not in the cards right now. But guess what? If you need me, I am here. Some of you have emailed me. Some of you have called me. And we've had great discussions and correspondences. I want to be a help to you all. If you need me, reach out to me. I'm here for you. I want this class to be a success for you, and it will be as long as we stay engaged with one another. So this week, assignments due, quiz 5 and your essay topic selection. Again, give me the entire week, and if it's a busy week, maybe a couple extra days into next week to get your essay number 2 papers graded. I will grade those. I will be on top of that. And we are going to continue this semester, and we're going to continue it strong. Okay? All right. I'm done. Have a great week. Call me if you need me. I'll see you next week.